Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy. Check us out. Costs nothing. I won't pay you though. And welcome to January 18, 2022. This is Office Hours Ask Us Anything. Usually it's just me, but we have a special guest that was recommended to me by friend of the show and low ego action hero, Ralica, who suggested that we bring in Tom Kerwin. So we're going to meet him in a moment. But first, of course, as always, I want to thank everybody who is financially supporting the channel, which is totally optional because I have a day job. But thanks to all of you helping me buy chocolate chips and cheesy video effects. Thanks to all of our low, mid-level, and senior low ego action heroes. Whoa, we just got a subscriber. Thank you, Edward. Thanks so much for joining the channel. And of course, if you are interested in joining, also costs you nothing. Check out deltacx.com/links. That will answer all the questions you have about the channel, like Deb, what's the upcoming schedule? And how do I ask a question? And how do I join your Slack? And do you coach people? And how do I take your Axure courses? And boop, bop, a beep. It's there. Please note, however, that I think we're going to have to reschedule tomorrow's show. So disregard that on the calendar. I need to reschedule that. Hi, Sheer. Thanks for joining. Alrighty, so with that out of the way, remember this is Office Hours Ask Us Anything. We've got 4 questions that came in ahead of time, but you'll be next. You can ask live in the YouTube or LinkedIn chat, or you can go to deltacx.link/ask. It's kind of above my head. deltacx.link/ask is the anonymous way to ask a question, and I know those of you dishing about work will want to use that method. So let's bring in Tom and get to know him. And hello, Ralica. She's in the live chat as well. Tom, please spell your name and tell us all about you.
Absolutely. This is testing my spelling now. So it's spelled Tomkerwin.
Correct.
So I'm Tom Kerwin. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'll go to the next round in the spelling bee. And so I've been in this world of UX for some time, over 2 decades now. I was studying engineering at university, and then I accidentally read Jacob Nielsen's Designing Web Usability and started running my first usability tests with my friends. And then I was hooked on finding out how wrong I was. And so then the following 20 years have just been increasing levels of finding out wrongness and updating beliefs.
That is a beautiful, beautiful story. Thank you so much for coming. And quickly, where can people find you, stalk you, connect with you?
So all the stalky fun, I have a Substack, which is you'll find it at tomkerwin.com. That redirects to Substack, and that's where I publish some thoughts sometimes I manage a weekly publication schedule for 1 week at a time, which is really impressive. I am proud of myself. And the other place that you can find the stuff that I'm most excited about these days is pivot-triggers.com. This is a kind of an approach, a framework that I've been evolving over the last couple of years, and it's really to support teams who are kind of struggling to get started with discovery and iteration, and it helps you to fit secretly loopishness into linear project plans in a way that won't upset your stakeholders too much.
Ooh, I'm going to write that down. I want to learn more about that. Hold on. Pivot-triggers. Sorry, everybody. This is the exciting part of the show where I'm writing something down. Please rewatch that. Hit the -10 seconds on your YouTube. Watch that again. So we're going to jump right in on the questions because, you know, we're usually here just about an hour. If we have monster questions and Tom can go late, that's up to him. But let's start with the first question that came in anonymously some days ago. It is going to cover me, but at least it's not covering Tom. And it says, how service design and UX design are different, and how could these roles collaborate together in a project? Thoughts there, Tom? You will get to answer all the questions first, or just pass on them if you don't want.
Oh, this is one of those wonderful fun ones where we in the design community have no way of actually knowing what we do for a job. And every title has different responsibilities, and the same set of responsibilities have different titles. So it's very, very difficult to do. The way I always approach this sort of thing is, this sounds like there's a specific situation that somebody has. And what matters is not how it should be done in some theoretical platonic ideal of UX design and service design. It matters what are the people who are in your particular situation? What do they believe their job entails, their roles and responsibilities are? A really nice tool for this is to get yourself a whiteboard or a whiteboarding tool and then write down the stuff that each of you cares about separately, and then look at where there's overlap. And you can see sometimes there are things where it's like, well, that's obviously the UX designer, that's obviously the service designer. Then there's a load of mushy stuff in the middle, which won't be so clear. You can then negotiate and have a conversation and talk about it, but you're making it concrete and detailed. You're not getting into abstract philosophical debates about what it should be. That'd be my approach for it. What do you think, Debbie?
Yeah, thanks for that. I think I take the question a little bit differently, but again, when people ask anonymously, they're usually not here to clear it up. So we just have to sometimes guess at what they mean, and that's where it gets creative. So I guess I think of this a little bit more as, what if you have a more traditional service designer who's going to do some sort of service blueprint? And what if you have a more traditional UX designer who's going to do some sort of digital design? And how would they work together? But again, your answer is totally valid. I took the question a little bit differently. So chances are, in that case, I think there's a great partnership to be had there. If you have a service designer who's done a good qualitative or observational research or observational research, and they've created a service blueprint, then hypothetically, you go from that service blueprint, which might be a current state, to a future state of the service blueprint, which is kind of a cousin of our optimized task flow. And then you would be working from that for your design. So I don't know if the person is here and wants to give us a follow-up question or a little bit more color, but I think these roles can collaborate in a project if the service designer is focused a little bit more on maybe the interviewing and blueprinting. But if not, if they're also focused on more of the problem solving, then I think you can partner with them if maybe you're more of the digital designer and they're going to make sure that some of the services and back-end processes and customer-facing processes are improved as well. But that's a guess. Who knows what this person means? The next one is one of our long story questions. I'm going to have to bump the font way down because it looks like this. Boo, ba, boo, ba, ba. Okay. Yeah, so anybody who's on the phone, you're not going to be able to read that, but I always read these out loud. And Tom, I do recommend maybe a pen and paper to make some notes as you hear this because this is a story. And we do get these, and we could get more. It says, "Hi, Debbie the Knowledgeable," because they didn't know Tom would be on the show. "A UX architect I work with thinks they have equal input as me on research activities, such as the test plan, moderator guide, and report deliverable. This person is new to the corporate space. I know it takes time to grasp office politics, but this continuous drama is draining me, both emotionally and time-wise. Both of us are new to this company, by the way. A third party will hold a peace accord meeting between us. I'm always open to input from team members, but I believe I'm under no obligation to follow a peer's input, and my manager agrees with me. If it goes against what I know from years of conducting team research projects, this includes established best UX research practices and what I've learned from experts like you." Thank you, nice person. "Going into mediation worries me. Any advice on ensuring an agreement that upholds my turf and autonomy?" Did you get all that, Tom?
Oh, yes, I did. I've made some notes. And it's,
Cool.
That's a gnarly one, isn't it?
Yeah, we get a lot of these, by the way.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of UX researchers have probably had that experience of lots of people thinking that they can run around and sort of change what the research activity is to fit better what they would like to know if it were possible, and yet it's not sometimes. And then office politics are nothing new either. So the thing that's coming out that I'm hearing underlying all of this is perhaps this person is a little bit concerned that when they get into this meeting, they're going to end up being negotiated or tricked or maneuvered into agreeing to things that they wouldn't want to have agreed to. And there's this fear of losing your turf and your autonomy. You can really recognize that. Yeah, that's a tricky thing to do. I think This is a complicated one. I'd be happy to have a conversation about it with you, Debbie. The place I jump to, the thing that's popping into my head is there's a book called When I Say No, I Feel Guilty. And this is one of the most powerful books I've read. And it gives you tools for basically all of society, whether you're in business or in a shop trying to get a refund or whatever it is. They are trying to manipulate you. Other people are trying to manipulate you all the time. And it's just natural. It's not a bad thing. We manipulate each other. That's what we do. We're social animals. But it can be a problem because one of the major levers of manipulation is to make you feel guilty. Guilty for doing something that is wrong in some way. And often people will use that even when there's nothing wrong that you're really doing. And so to jump to the key points of the book, there are some sort of tools that you can have in your arsenal. The first one is the stuck record. So you need to know what you want, and then you just keep coming back to wanting that. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to have reasons for it. You say what you want. So you want to keep your turf and your autonomy. Whatever that means to you, you're going to keep saying that. The next thing is fogging. So being like a cloud of fog. People will try to attack you in various different angles to get you off that core topic and to start the conversation being about something else where they can then pin you down and have you there. So don't let yourself be pulled off into something else. Just agree with whatever they say. You can say, yeah, I can see your point. There's absolutely a way in which that is the case. And you return to your broken record and you just keep repeating what you want in the first place. You don't allow them to pull you away from what you wanted to say. There are a few other tools as well, but those are really the key point. And it's knowing that it's okay for you to want to have what you want to have, and you can find your way through it. Another tool in the belt actually that's important to know is the workable compromise. Sometimes you need to make a workable compromise, but it's important that you're not compromising in a way that you're going to feel resentful afterwards because you've given up something that mattered.
Thank you. Those were great. Absolutely great. And of course, if the person is joining us live, you're welcome to send a follow-up question, deltacx.link/ask. I'm checking that because you probably don't want to type in the chat room because then I'm going to yell your name out. But there's a couple of things about your story that concern me. I'm going to put it up even though it's going to cover my face a bit because really the story is more important. So a couple of things that I noticed about your story was... your manager agrees with you. And I wondered, who is that other person's manager? Because if they're a UX architect and you're a UX researcher, do you have the same manager? If you do have the same manager, why didn't your manager solve this? Why is this now going to mediation? This kind of shouldn't go to mediation. This seems like something that should be solved by your manager telling this person, tone this down. If you want to make suggestions to this person, fine, but they're not going to necessarily do what you say. Don't push them, don't bully them, don't whatever. Like, I don't understand why, I've joked with some people behind the scenes that if people had good managers, this show would be over. And so, I don't know why your manager didn't solve this either by dealing with that architect directly because they also manage them, or going to that architect's manager and saying manager to manager, like, hey, Tom, I've got a researcher on my team and they're really, they're having a tough time because you've got an architect on your team and it sounds like there's some conflict there. The way that I hear it, that, the architect is blah, blah, blah. Hey, Tom, what can you and I do to help my researcher do their work and to help your architect maybe stay in their swim lane a little bit better? And then Tom goes back to their worker and says, I heard that there's some bad blood or conflict between you and so. Here's what I think you should do. So I don't understand why you're being brought into some sort of internal company mediation. It sounds like this has reached a level of drama that is unnecessary. This really should have been fixed by one manager or both managers. So I would probably, if you have a good relationship with your manager, I would say, I needed you to fix this for me. Like Tom is saying, say what you want. Hi, manager, I needed you to take care of this for me because now that I'm in mediation, I have to take care of this for me. And I have to be seen as the plaintiff or the aggressor with this person. And that's not going to, that's going to be tough. I also noticed that, I'm reading the question again. Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to say, because Tom had a lot of great advice there, was we did a show maybe just a week ago. I don't understand time, but I think we did a show about a week ago, and it was with Jan Patan, I think is his name, and he taught us how to use debate techniques to advocate for UX. I think I'd like you to watch that show and watch his debate techniques, because he shows you how to lay out an argument to convince somebody of something. And I'm thinking those might help you in addition to some of the ideas that Tom gave you as well. But I think if the mediation hasn't happened yet, and if the mediation is potentially some days away, go back to your manager and say, let's not make this go to mediation. That's going to be higher drama than we need here. I need you to fix this as my manager. Or can you please fix this with so-and-so's manager, Tom? And I've done that at jobs. And I found that when I couldn't fix it with that person, getting the manager or the two managers came to some sort of resolution. Tom, anything you want to add before we look at the next question?
I think that was a great response.
Oh,
better than mine. Yeah.
Yours
Right.
is
You're
great.
absolutely right. Well, yeah, mine was focused on, I think, if you have to handle it for yourself. But you're right, it shouldn't have come to this. I'm thinking about a job years ago, which I tried to handle this for a person who was working for me, someone I was managing. And there was a problem stakeholder in the business, shall we say. And I went to try to resolve this with the problem stakeholder and tried to find a way that we could find a workable compromise together where this person wasn't breaking my researcher. And we can get there. And so the resolution we got to was, well, we just don't work with him anymore. And that was that.
And by the way, they've just sent a secret behind-the-scenes private message to deltacx.link/ask, and they said, you're right, the architect is under a different manager. Okay, so your manager and so-and-so's manager, Tom, need to work this out. It shouldn't have to go to mediation. This isn't a lawsuit. This isn't a legal dispute. This is something two managers should be able to work out to probably 75% your benefit and 25% the other person's benefit. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, let me pull up the next question. This one is shorter. I can bump the font back up. Okay, this one says, hi, I'm working at a company and currently I'm the only UX designer. They think I'm capable more than enough. Thus, they won't hire any other designer. How will this affect my skills? I do need feedback and brainstorming sessions. How can I convince them to hire more designers? Something up your sleeve, Tom, for helping UX teams grow.
Oof.
Tough questions over here.
Tough questions, and this is top of the head. Like, well, I've been in that position myself several times. I'm sure lots of us have. There's always that first designer in the door, and you've got a really hard job. One of the things that I've done, and I've seen lots of other people do as well, is cover over all the cracks and keep things running smoothly and not make it clear that there's a problem here. We say, oh yeah, it would be nice if we could hire another designer because I'll get some additional benefits that don't sound like much to the person who's ultimately going to be paying for another person to join you. They're the one with the budget. How can you? One of the things that people often do is just make it too smooth, make it too painless, not make it that person's problem, at which point they will then actually feel okay about spending some money to fix it. If it's clear that they need to hire another designer in order to cover something that matters to them, that's when you get another designer. But this is have another designer. It sounds a bit from what you're saying, I'd like another designer so I have a friend. And that's not a compelling argument. I get it. We all want that. And it's lovely when you've got people to bounce ideas off, do the brainstorming, etc., etc. But it's not going to persuade the hard-nosed capitalist running the business.
Super agree. Great answer. And my thoughts when I read this was, you can get a mentor or coach. To me, the only difference between the two is a mentor will do it for free and a coach gets paid. I do paid coaching. I charge $50 American per half hour. That's in some people's budgets. That's out of some people's budgets. But whether you find someone for free or paid, and I don't know if Tom does mentoring or coaching. Tom?
Yep,
Yeah,
certainly have
good.
done.
Find this guy. Track him down on LinkedIn. He looks like this, and get yourself a mentor or coach, because even if it's going to be a long time coming to build that team, if you need feedback on your designs, if you're looking to grow your skills, get that coach. That's it. Somebody who has at least 5 more years of experience than you do. Look for that person with, if you're relatively new, maybe they have 5, 7 years or so. Tom and I have 20, but no one's counting. And that's what I would suggest, because I do agree that, oh, great, we got our first Russian porn spam, Tom. I warned you. So
Hooray.
now I know, now I've got to go in there and delete that. So I do agree with Tom that it's going to be hard to be like, can I please get a buddy here? Because remember, they hired you because they thought you could hit the ground running alone. And people put individual practitioners on UX projects because they think they can do it alone. And so the problem is that I think accidentally you can make people feel like, well, can't they do this job? We hired them, but. So I don't want you to accidentally give that impression, even though we all know you're totally competent. So I would probably say get some private coaching, but look for things happening at the company where you can sneak in hints like, this would be better if we had another designer. So for example, are you overworked? Are you spread across too many projects? Are people telling you you're a bottleneck? Are people telling you you're holding back deadlines? Find other ways to tell the company they need more of you rather than, I wish I had the buddy. That would be my
Those are
suggestion there.
brilliant specific examples of things that will make the company feel like, okay, we need another designer. It's those bottlenecks. It's things getting delayed because you are spread too thin, and you're gonna be, because you're the one designer. It's gonna happen sooner rather than later. Where I was going, I think, was most people in your position will then just work more hours and cover it and
Yes,
not want to let
don't do
people
that.
down. You'll end up in just a spiral where it gets worse and worse.
Yeah, I have a friend going through
Another
that
idea,
now. She's totally burning out.
yeah, I think most of us have probably done that at some point and learned the hard way. It's not fun. But yeah, I think the coach or mentoring idea is great. The other thing that I might suggest is there are communities online. So there is a lovely one, Designer Hangout, and there's a design critique channel, and there are people who will jump in and critique your design work. You can talk through the problem you're having and get ideas and more questions, ways to think about it. So that's a really free, easy, open way to do it.
Excellent, excellent. And of course, you can join our Slack channel as well, though we don't usually do design critiques or look at people's work because I feel like that takes a lot more time and we need a lot more backstory. And you might want to sign my NDA depending upon what it is. So maybe Tom's Slack universe is a little bit more appropriate for that. But our Slack channel is always happy, our Slack workspace is always happy to support people. So join there. All right, we've got our next question. And let me post that one. I was just pasting it because I'm in a copy and paste universe. And it says, as a designer, I have to deal with politics more than design work. Is that usual in any company? I'm happy with my job. It's a UX aware company, but I don't know how to deal with politics. Once again, another question that would probably be fixed by a good manager. Tom?
Fixed by a good manager, but the reality is, as soon as you have more than one person working together, you have politics. You just do, and so I think, yeah, it's. I spent many years being the UX designer who didn't want to deal with politics. I don't do that, and so I can understand completely. Um, you're going to reach a point where it's not going to work anymore because most of the work is influencing other people to find out what they need and help them to get what they want so that then the users get what they need. And yeah, it's just part of it. For me, it's part of the job. It took me a long time to recognize that. If it's become so much of the job that you actually can't get anything done, and now it is just a sort of theatre of politics, then that's not okay. So it's about there's a balance to strike, I think.
Yeah, totally agree. I have found that when I work at places, it is politics orama. When I come in, usually as a freelancer or contractor, I'm somehow left out of the politics. So depending upon where you are and what the climate is, at least in America, when I tend to come in as a freelancer or contractor, it's few or no politics. I think a lot of people assume I'm temporary and it doesn't matter, and I'm not fighting for. I'm right. I'm not fighting for their. I'm not going to take their job. I'm not gunning for their promotion. I'm not competing against them. I'm just a contractor. So I think that. I don't know whether or not you want to try to switch over to that, but again, that did block me from some of the promotions I thought I should have gotten. So because I was a contractor, they don't make them managers and stuff like that. So again, this sounds like another time when we might need to talk to a manager. I don't know what the manager will do because politics is a general word and you're never going to totally escape it. But I don't know if you're talking about gossip or something malicious or something where people are hurting each other in a work or non-work way. So I don't know if the politics is just people fighting for power and decisions, which could still be a manager topic, or if it is, something more manipulative or abusive. So I think whatever it is, again, it's probably hard to have zero of it, but you might want to bring it up with your manager to see if there's something that can be improved. Yeah, thanks for asking. Let's see what the next question is. Hold on. We've got a bunch of them, and Ralitza is now filling the channel with interesting questions. So we're going to have more coming. I will copy and paste them as fast as possible. Okay, this question says, why are there many overlaps between PM and UX designer roles and between PO and UX designer roles? I am having arguments with PMs and POs about why they're doing our work, and they just told me they feel the same about UX designers. Why is that?
Why indeed? This is oh God, this conversation is happening a lot in our world at the moment, and as you've identified, the same one is happening a lot in the PM world at the moment. And I think it goes back to the thing that I said at the beginning. It's specific. It's about a specific situation. There is not a single defined role and set of skills and responsibilities that a UX designer must have and that a PM must have. There's no such thing. It's very mushy at the edges, and there are some designers who seriously want to stay well away from product type decisions, and there are some product managers who don't want to touch wireframes, and then there are those who will reach across the aisle and try to help sometimes or try to control other times. I think when it's about control, then you're getting into that negative politics that Debbie mentioned before. When it's about enablement or confusion or trying to help each other out, then it can be better. But it's just very common. And I think the exercise is map it out. Sit down with the person where you're not agreeing and make a board of all the stuff that you're finding controversial, and then agree how you might help each other out, if you can. Or at least you can see where the contention is and where you don't have contention. Otherwise, I've seen in the past, you end up just always in contention, always fighting against each other. There was a manager who I had a job or two ago who turned me on to something quite good, which is you can have really constructive friction. So sometimes you're going to have different people working together with different perspectives, and it creates friction, and that creates energy, and it creates good things. You can lean into that sometimes, and it can be very, very good, even though it's not always comfortable, and it doesn't always feel like you're getting your way. It can lead to a better result. If it goes too far, it's not good though. So it's that balance. It's all about the balance, isn't it? Restoring balance.
Yes, this one's hard. And I think that one thing that I tend to suggest here are project and team charters. So when a team is coming together to work on something, it is common in some organizations, and it should be more common to create a team charter. Hey, here's our project manager. Here's what they do. Here is our business analyst or whatever. Here's what they do. Here's the engineering lead. Here's what they do. Here's our UX researcher or research team. And so you just have a charter that just says, these are our swim lanes. Here's where we collaborate, and here's where the domains are. And we had a question like this morning, because today was double office hours day. So we had a similar question this morning where someone said, what should a product owner do? And I believe that a product owner should not do UX work. And the interesting thing to me is a lot of product managers and product owners believe that they can do UX work and they should be able to do UX work. You know, sketching designs and making wireframes seems easy. I've got product ideas in my head. I can do this. And talking to customers seems easy. I like to do that. I can do this. And what I always say, and I haven't found yet a gentle way to say this, so you have to find a gentle way to say this, but what I say, maybe to that person's manager, where I don't have to be so gentle, is this person would not qualify for a junior UX job at our company. And in my opinion, if they would not qualify or be considered for a UX job at our company, they shouldn't do UX work. And same for me. I wouldn't qualify to be a product manager at our company. So the best I can hope to be is part of that three-voice triangle, product, UX, and engineering, when we talk about what we're planning for the future and how we prioritize it, and estimating time. But I don't expect to be queen of the product roadmap. That's somebody else's job. I expect to throw a couple of ideas out there and maybe they get taken. And I expect a product manager to give me some ideas and maybe they get taken. But I think that I think a good line in the sand is, if you do not qualify for a job at our company in this because you do not have the education, the skills, the expertise, whatever we're looking for, I think I'd like you to stay out of that swim lane.
I think it's a great point. This is reminding me of a conversation people were having on Twitter. I was joining in as well a little bit, which was about exactly this kind of thing, when you've got the people stepping on each other's toes. And it was a real exposure to, I think, some of the flip side, which is people saying, yeah, designers are often trying to make decisions that aren't theirs to make. And so the way they were framing it here, which is another way to think about this, I think, is the product manager or the product owner, especially the product owner, they're the one who makes the decisions. They're the one with whom the buck stops. The designer owns telling them what the consequences of those decisions are likely to be. So there is, if we were using the metaphor, which I've stolen from Jeff Patton, of being a kitchen fitter, so a kitchen remodeler. And so the designer, in this case, is the kitchen remodeler. They are the expert in kitchen remodeling. They can say, well, look, there is oven option A, that is the most expensive, but it heats up the fastest. It's got the highest temperature. It does that thing where you heat it up really hot and it cleans itself. Really cool. There's oven option B that heats up a little bit slower, and it's not quite as good, but it's cheaper. And then there's oven option C. I wouldn't really recommend it, but it will warm some bread. And so you've got those options, and the product manager can then make that trade-off decision, and they will decide which oven they want to fit in their kitchen. What they shouldn't be doing, and this is where I think we get into the trouble, is saying, actually, I don't agree with you. I think oven C is going to heat up the best, and so oven C it is. Or, actually, I prefer the look of that wine cooler over there, so we're going to cook my roast in that. And the UX designer saying, but that's not going to work. And the product manager says, well, I think it is. And that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, and ultimately, I find that this tends to fly in organizations that don't have accountability, because I believe that once we have real accountability with real adult teeth, then what happens is if the product owner or manager starts doing UX work and that UX work is crappy and it goes out to the customer and there is a poor response or it tests poorly, hypothetically, that product manager would be held accountable. And then someone would say, you know what, maybe you're not doing that again. But the problem is that a lot of our companies, there is no accountability. The product manager often rules the project and is not going to take themselves off of the whatever. So I think it's important to really have those delineations. And I like Denise's comment that organizations should define these roles to avoid these fights. But again, there's a little bit of a problem there, Denise. I recently saw a product manager core skills list, and it included various UX research and design skills. And my thought was, over my dead body. And so I think we have to be careful because who is going to define those? If the product manager beats us to the definition, then they're going to put all of those skills for themselves on there. Nielsen Norman Group even wrote an article about this. You can Google for it, but they showed that when they surveyed some UX people and some product people, both said the other was stepping on their toes. So it sounds like we can all do better.
We can definitely do better. I have seen there is a promised land where actually it doesn't really matter in a good team that's healthy. It doesn't really matter who's got what title. There is stuff that needs to be done and people pitch in. And I have no problem with a product manager doing some of the user research work, doing some design work, as long as they know a little bit about what they're doing and they know enough that they don't know everything. And they are willing to take coaching on it. They're willing to understand where the limits of their expertise are. And likewise, the UX designer is willing to understand the limits of their expertise. And that sometimes UX designers, we can be a little bit chicken licking and the sky is falling. And if it isn't our way, then the whole thing is compromised and it's terrible. And that's often not really the case, but it can be hard to accept.
Yeah, and just to quickly mention, I just happen to disagree with Tom there. You can certainly still try his advice. I happen to have a different perspective here. And those who watch the channel know that I'm concerned that if we set a precedent that product can do UX work, we've set that precedent. And next time we go to hire for UX, someone might say, well, just let a product owner do it. And I'm just concerned about the idea that we might have trouble growing the UX team in the future if we don't fight for the specialty and if we act like, well, we've got some easy work that, they can just pick up maybe with a little coaching. If we have time to give coaching, why aren't we just doing this work? And if we have time to give coaching, can we please hire some juniors? Because there's like a squillion of them out there who can't get jobs. I would rather raise up a UX junior who knows already more than a product owner and is going to be paid half what that person makes. And I would rather I would rather support UX. So I know it feels like the easy way to go. Even Nielsen Norman Group says, oh, well, sometimes you could give some work to product. And then, of course, I have to run the fire thing and say, no, stop it. We have to put on our critical thinking hats and consider what are the bad possible outcomes for our jobs, for our teams, if we start teaching people, sometimes other people can do some of our work. It's kind of easy to learn and easy to pick up.
It's a very good point. Second order effects. No, don't apologize. I think you're exactly right as well.
Beware the slippery slope.
The slippery slope.
I know.
I think a lot of the time, I think it depends what flavor of organization you're in sometimes.
Yeah, I say keep fighting.
My experience is mainly startups.
Okay.
I suspect yours is mainly not.
Right.
I think, it's just a different game. It's a completely different game. And it is normal to wear multiple hats in a startup. In a bigger company, that is a danger sign. I think that's probably
and I think the startup is less likely to create that budget to hire, whereas the people in the more established company are probably trying to build up their department. And so as soon as they start losing control of who does their work, it tends to spiral down and get a lot worse. So thank you for that. Good. Two sides of a coin. So Oh, I thought I put Kayleen's thing in the. Okay, here we go. Kayleen asks, sorry, Kayleen, this was 25 minutes ago. Kayleen asked, what is the difference between UX and product strategy? So I guess UX strategy and product strategy.
Well, we're smack back in that same debate again, aren't we? I think that there's a nice there are many diagrams. There are many Venn diagrams, and all of them are wrong. But there's this thing that product fundamentally owns the viability. Can the business do this and make money and survive as a business? Because if we can't do that, then we're not going to be around for very long. We're not going to have jobs. The users aren't going to have a product. So they own kind of the viability bit. That's an important part of product strategy. The UX people, we own the usability, the desirability, that sort of area. Can people use it? Do they want to use it? And that's the sort of area there. And then our engineering counterparts, we're back to that triangle. The engineering counterparts tend to own feasibility. Can we build it before the heat death of the universe? And those are the three balance, the three things that remain in balance. When we think about UX strategy, that tends to be, I think I like Jared Spool. Do we get a fire for that? Jared Spool's take.
I hate him.
But his point is the UX strategy is about how we make longer term, lay the groundwork so that UX people in the company, we get more of them and they can do better work. And the UX of
I
the
wonder who
product
he
as a
stole
whole,
that from.
was it you?
Oh, who can
It could have
say?
been almost anyone.
When did he say? Yeah, because I find that if
I
it
don't
if
know.
it
I've seen
supports
this.
UX, he probably stole it. And if it poops on UX, it's probably him. Because remember, he's the main guy saying everybody's a designer. So everybody designer, and you're gonna grow your team by protecting UX. So pick one. Sorry, Tom. Back to you.
Yeah, that's fair. I, I think he's making a different point with everyone's a designer. I think it's the Ratatouille point. But yeah, no, you don't agree. That's fine. We don't need to talk about that.
Just don't get me started on Spool. Everybody knows the flames will come out. Please, back to you.
Back to me. So, yeah, product strategy, that is going to bring in a whole heap of stuff, which is around the market, the business viability, the other teams that are involved, how we get distribution on this thing, what the channels are, all this sort of stuff is product strategy, how it's going to fit into the bigger organizational picture, everything. The UX strategy doesn't include most of that, but it does include a bit that's often overlooked, which is, does anyone want to use it? Can they use it? And do they want to use it enough to pay the cost that we're putting on them? The friction, the anxiety, the money, the time, the cognitive overhead, all of that stuff. That's the UX part of it.
Fantastic answer, even with the invocation of the spool. Super answer, and I definitely agree. I know, what is with that guy? We have a long, ugly history, and some of the low ego action heroes like the drama, and some do not. So I would totally agree. In the places where I've tended to work, product tends to shepherd the roadmap, which tends to do with what are we building and when are we building it and what are our priorities and pretty much what Tom said. And then, of course, you hope that they've done that roadmap with some collaboration with engineering and UX, so we can talk about what seems most desirable and high priority to the users. Engineering can talk about what's feasible. And then I found that at many companies, product sometimes has kind of the final say over some of these decisions because they're usually supposed to be, doesn't always happen, they're supposed to be that beautiful Tom Venn diagram of business needs and customer or user needs. And they're supposed to be monitoring both of these and try to be choosing projects or products or features that will work out best for everybody. UX is usually siding a little bit more with the users and customers and a little bit less concerned with some of the business goals, and product is supposed to balance that. So sometimes they have kind of some final decisions because they're supposed to be looking at both relatively equally. Doesn't always happen. So a little bit of a different approach there. Thanks to Kayleen for the question. Now we have one in a series of Ralitza questions, and the first one is getting a job in the UK as a UX researcher post-Brexit. Any advice? What are the challenges there, and what can an EU national do to stand out? I can't answer this. This is all you.
Oh my God. Do you know what? I can't answer this either. I've no idea. It's still quite new to me, and it's a total mess. So
because Brexit.
I don't know if anyone knows because Brexit. Yeah. As far as I can tell, though, it's still okay. But like things like visas, the legal stuff, I honestly couldn't tell you. I think in terms of the companies I've worked in the UK, they've been extraordinarily open and welcoming to people from all over the world, and it's been very pleasant. There are places in England that do not seem to be that welcoming at times, and that is an unpleasant situation. Given that I've just taken it, I've in the last year and a half, I've worked for an American company and now a company based in the Netherlands. I'm in the UK and I'm not working for UK-based companies.
Right.
So I can't really give you a very clear answer on that.
Sorry there, Ralitza. Ralitza, you might want to talk to some of our typical people on the show who are in the in the UK and working in the UK. Maybe talk to Dr. Nick. Maybe check in with Charlene. I don't know, maybe post something to our Slack in research or in general and see if anybody has some suggestions for you. And then Ralitza had, she said, I'm in the Netherlands now, Tom. So there we go. Kurt, I saw your question on LinkedIn and now I see you in YouTube. I'll have to check if it's the same question or not, but you are on the list. It's just that Ralitza put in a bunch of questions while you weren't looking. So Ralitza asked this question, but then she changed it and I wasn't too sure what to change it. So Ralitza, you might have to help us. And Kurt, tell me if this is the same question as your previous one on LinkedIn or different. How can a UX researcher start gradually improving their strategic skills? Any literature or other on the topic? I mean, how can I contribute to more strategic company goals as opposed to just my project deliverables? Are there differences in how a strategic problem is approached?
I love this question. Yes.
Yay!
So yeah, hey, oh, that's nice. I like these video effects. I did a big long thread on Twitter about exactly this question. How can you be more strategic? Designers have this question. Researchers have this question. So if I could just summarize this, strategy, if you boil it down, is simply deciding what to do next, given what the situation is right now and what we are capable of doing at the moment. So we are doing strategy by ourselves for each hour of the day that we work. We're saying, I've got an hour, I've got these things that need to get done. I've got teammates who are waiting for certain things and not for others, and I've got things that I prefer, whatever. We've got a load of stuff we could do, and we've got a load of capabilities, and we know roughly what we're capable of doing, and we can therefore spend that next hour choosing to do work on one of those things. Or we could spend the next hour choosing to increase our capabilities, do some training, learn something, which would enable us to do more with that hour another time. So you're doing strategy already at a low timescale, a low level on the timescale ladder. So there's a timescale ladder which broadly goes from 1 to 3 hours. When you're over 1 to 3 hours, you're really in a day. Then you're looking at 1 to 3 days. Over that, you're really in a week. 1 to 3 weeks, you're really in a month. 1 to 3 months, you're really in a quarter. 1 to 3 quarters, you're really in a year. So those are your sort of rough extensions of timescales. The other thing that applies to strategy is how many people are involved. So at the very basic level, which we're all doing all the time, it is strategy. We're deciding what to do with our resources. That's just us. We're deciding what we're going to do given our context of our team and the things that we have facing us and the things we need to do. The next level up tends to be, what is our team going to do given the stuff that's larger in the organization? And then you've got the next level up is more about what the organization is going to do given the organization's context. And what you need to do is not imagine that there's a magical way of doing strategy where people have all the answers, because nobody does. Everyone is just figuring it out as they go along. It's quite hard, though. It's quite stressful to jump from one rung on the timescale ladder to the next one up. So you can start to play around with ideas at making suggestions for the next time scale up, having conversations with your team, for instance, in terms of what you might be more strategic in terms of research. Getting specifically into UX research, what I've seen is a pattern in almost every organization, and I'm sure, Debbie, you'll have seen this too. Researchers start doing evaluative stuff at the very end of projects, at the very end of the work, and you're given a thing which has been built, and you're asked to test it and find the usability issues, and then rank those usability issues, and then somebody decides whether we're going to fix them or not. So you have very little influence over how the project is going to go. That's sort of at this end of time, right at the end of something. What you want to do is start moving your way back towards the beginning of things, but you can't just do it in one jump. Usually you can't jump in and go, right, it's me at the start, I'm telling you what to do. You need to start moving your way back and asking questions and having conversations with people and just saying, hey, can I help out? We can probably do something a little bit earlier if we do some research. We might be able to make some decisions, and it'll be cheaper to change it earlier than if we wait till the end. And you can start to have those conversations and open those doors. How does that sound?
Super. Thank you for all of that. Super. Wow. Yes. I don't even want to disagree there, and I don't think I could. It was great. So thank you for that. I'm going to jump into Ralitza's next question before we get to Kurt's question, which was, what's the biggest difference between strategic and tactical research? How do those emerge and get handled in organizations?
Right. This is kind of a similar question. Tactical and strategic are generally words that are used to mean low status and high status in most organizations. Strategic if you get paid more, tactical if you get paid less. That's it. But there is a more serious question to this. Tactics can be about what it is that you're doing, the specific thing that you're doing and deploying it. The strategy tends to be more about the why. Again, my take is most people doing what they call strategy don't know what strategy is, and they're really making a mess. It's not their fault. Strategy has multiple meanings. It can mean a plan that we make up front. It can mean patterns that we identified after we finished, that we saw how something worked out. It's got several more meanings as well, all of which contradict each other, which make it very hard for anyone to make strategy mean anything. But at its heart, I think strategy is, given all of the things that we could do, all of our capabilities, which ones are we going to deploy right now in the situation we have right now with all of the stuff that's going on in order to get us closer to take a step in the right direction towards where we would like to be, we think. And that's your strategy. So it's kind of the why of, it's why we're going to do this rather than that. And then the tactic is how we get that done once we know that that is what we want to do.
Thank you. Again,
it probably needs something more specific and elucidated with an example from you, Debbie, to make it make sense.
No, I can't imagine that doesn't make sense. I don't know if anybody needs anything added to that. That was super, and I'd rather move on to the next question because technically we're supposed to stop in 5 minutes, but I can't imagine it. Tom, can you run late with us a bit to answer the last 3 questions, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Okay, great. We finally have Kurt's question. Thank you, Kurt, for being patient. Let me post that up on the screen. So we'll have 3 more questions and we'll wrap up. Kurt says, I'm working on my portfolio and I'm having a hard time clarifying my job title. I'm a product designer first and foremost. I'm working to diversify my skill set to include UXD and UXR, but now I'm confused as to which job title and type of work I should be applying for next. How might I title myself to be inclusive of all of these skill sets?
This is we're back at the fun of job titles and them being almost meaningless in our industry. So yeah, I've got stuck on this as well, and that title question Does the title matter? What matters about the title? Probably it's the wrong place to worry too much, would be my guess. The big question you need to figure out is, what do you want to do more of in the next job you get? So what do you want to be doing? Don't worry about the title. Worry about then the portfolio showing that that is what you do, and make the only things in your portfolio telling the story that the obvious place for you to go next is somewhere that includes product design, design, UX research. I can say, to me, a product designer is someone who is a UX designer and a UX researcher. That's what they do in a sort of combined way. So to me, product designer is a sensible name. However, in many places, product designers take orders and color in wireframes that
Yes,
product managers have made.
I was
And
going to say
so
that.
you're going to have to read the job description and figure out what they mean when they say these job titles. One idea for you is, when you see a job description that you like, and whatever the job title is put on there, put that as your job title for your portfolio when you send it to them.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to add to that, but I'm killing porn spam again.
Oh,
Please do not copy paste these things people are posting into the channel, everybody. Yeah, I agree that totally what Tom said, that the title is less important and the portfolio is more important. And I also want to remind everybody, when I hit your portfolio homepage or case studies or projects page, tell me right there, does this project include research? Does this project include design? Does this project include, tell me right there, because if I'm coming to look at you as a researcher and I keep opening projects that are all visual design, I'm going to be like, F this guy, I am done here. And so make sure that I know before I start opening up these projects, which ones I should be looking at, which ones are relevant to what I'm looking for. So if you are looking for a role that is a combination of them, you can always call yourself UX researcher and designer. You know, nothing stops you from that. For many years, I wrote strategist, architect, and designer. It was a little long, but of course, when I went into a job, they gave me whatever title they were giving out: UX architect, UX researcher, whatever it was, and you just run with that. But if it's a name you're giving yourself, I'm not as worried about it. And I think that I agree with Tom. Just make sure the portfolio is telling the story so that I can easily see, does he know research? Is he good at this? Or is he kind of not? How's his design work? Is he good at this? Is he kind of not? Though I agree with the second thing Tom said, which is, when I hear product designer, I tend to think UI UX. I tend to think a visual designer who likes UX. So,
or the
so
idea
be
of UX.
right. I always love when I see these job descriptions and they're like, familiarity with UX. And I'm always like, okay, but do you need me to do it or just like have heard of it? So there you go. So Kurt, I think you're here live. Let us know if you have any follow-up questions to that. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next question because we have just two more and then we can let Tom eat dinner and go to sleep. Kurt says, wow, great feedback. Thank you. You're welcome, Kurt. Good luck and tell us how it goes. All
You
right.
got this.
Yes, we are here for you. It says, tips on how to handle a request to compromise research rigor or principles coming from your manager with minimal conflict. How I've managed so far is to convince the client, but sometimes they're the reason why this is happening, and I want to make sure I improve my chances of them accepting my reasoning. Ooh, so your manager is your problem? Ooh.
So the question, this sounds like you're in an agency situation.
Yes, it does.
It does, yeah. And I have seen before, I don't know, this looks like the sort of conflict of interest situation where what the client is buying is not research, it is the answer they wanted to have all along. And so when they're paying for that, it's very difficult for the people in the agency to say, actually, no, we're going to give you what you should have, not what you are paying us for. So that can be a real challenge. I've been in this situation and I've managed to talk some clients round and I've managed not to talk other clients around. Another book recommendation, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. He's an FBI hostage negotiator
Oh, yeah.
who now teaches negotiation. And really, the secret behind the whole book is he really just teaches you how to do really good research interviews. Because the trick to negotiation is to figure out what the other person really wants and then find a way for them to have that without losing face. And so it sounds like you're already doing a good job at talking with the clients. At least you've got contact with the client. Like some agencies, you'd be locked away and it'd be an account manager who is having all those conversations and then handing you your marching orders. So at least you're having those conversations with the client and you can dig to find out what is it they really want. The magic question I use is, okay, so once you have the thing that you're saying you want, then what happens?
Oh, sorry. I thought there's more coming. That
That's
was
all I got.
great. Yeah. Oh, wow. It was still reverberating for me. That was super. And only a little bit to add to that is, I do tend to recommend in cases like this, whether agency or otherwise, see if somebody will document some risk. Like, sure, client or manager, we could jump right into another design sprint and come up with some ideas and put them out there to the public and whatever. But then you have to remember, if they're out in the public sees them. Your competitors see them, bloggers see them, the media sees them. Are you publicly traded? So yeah, sure, we can do this, but what are the risks? And I think a lot of teams and agencies don't look enough at some of these risks. They just go, yeah, we're just gonna brainstorm a thing and put it out there. Come on, everybody, sticky note orama. And I think that it would be great if more teams and agencies got into the habit of saying, well, hold on, there's risk here. And we should understand that if we skip research or we compromise our principles and just do the research that we think will make this say yes. You know, whenever I see somebody saying, I'm going to do a qualitative study and then I'm going to validate it with quant, how often is it invalidated by quant? Yeah, go. Tom?
Well, yeah, I mean, validate my hypothesis means let's do systematized confirmation bias at scale. Mm-hmm. And that's it.
Thank you.
So as soon as someone's saying validate, yeah, critical thinking has gone out the window.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that as soon as we're saying, let's validate this at scale or let's validate this with quant, I always say, then you will. I'm sure anybody can write the survey that will prove that our qualitative information had some sort of substance. But again, I tend to find that happens, especially in organizations who say, what, you only talked to 5 people? That's not statistically significant. Oh, okay, well then I followed it up with a survey of 200 and they said the same thing. Oh, now we believe you. So I think that the thing here would be to know.
Mad, yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm with you. So I think that warning people of risk is important. You know, if they have it, if sometimes people have come to an agency because they previously had a disaster project, and now they think they're going to hire the big guns, the experts, the higher level of people in some way. So you might say to them, you know, what happened in that last project? Did you skip research on that project too, or did you reduce research, or did you ask research to make sure they're kind of making sure this looks pretty good? Well, let's not do that again. And ultimately, I don't know why your manager isn't backing you up, because especially if you're an agency, doing research means you get to sell them more stuff.
Yeah. Well, there is a caveat. Sometimes you do research for a client and the outcome of the research is
your product sucks.
Really here. Yeah.
Oh, I've been there too.
Any more money because you don't want to do this, and the agency doesn't like that for some reason. But
been there.
Like a power tool, the thing that I love the most, which is also part of Pivot Triggers, pivottriggers.com, is nicked from Gary Klein, and it's the pre-mortem. And I'm sure everyone's come across pre-mortem. If you
before
haven't,
it dies,
you need to. Before it dies, exactly. So you need to find this out if you haven't done one before. The trick with a pre-mortem is that people are terrible at predicting risk from the beginning of something, looking forward and guessing what's going to go wrong. There are also loads of social pressure reasons why we're not going to speak up and share what is going to go wrong. because it's going to put someone's nose out of joint. There's status games going on. It's not a good thing. But what people are brilliant at is looking back from something that's gone wrong and diagnosing why it went wrong. And the trick with the pre-mortem is you do that time travel. You say, we are in the future. It has gone so badly. We wish we'd never even started this whole project. And then we say, right, everybody, the stakeholder, the manager, the people on the team, people who are involved before, whoever, get them all in the room. And we're all doing this, looking backwards and diagnosing what went wrong. What you're secretly getting is all of the things they're most afraid of. And that is going to show you what you can then from there, your research can tackle those fears. And that's where you're going to get the leverage.
Oh, I like that. That's sneaky. UX is going to have to get sneakier, I get the feeling. All right, that was a good one. Thank you.
Basically.
Yeah, we've got one more and then I'll let you go. Sorry, we're 6 minutes late and we're going to run for a few more minutes. And a reminder to everyone joining live, we're going to be rescheduling tomorrow's show, so I apologize. Last minute, no show tomorrow, but we'll do Friday's reaction stream since some people have sent some stuff. All right, our last question is Kayleen, and she was really following up to the conversation we had earlier. It's just showing up a half hour later. And she said, so in an ideal world, UX strategy really does equal product strategy? What do you think?
I talked about this before with people. In an ideal world, like, we're all trying to achieve the same thing, aren't we? We want to have a really nice exchange of value between the business and the business's customers, where everybody gets a nice win-win, and we all do well, and we all, like, the users get get to make progress with their struggles, the business gets to make money and survive as an organization and create a great environment for people to work in. That's what we all want. So at the end, everybody's trying to do the same thing. The problem is it's so tricky, and there's so many facets to that, and it's so complicated and complex. It's so complex. There's no way generally that one person can handle all of that. And that's why things tend to sort of break apart. There's also what we need, I would say, the diversity of perspectives in order to be able to make sense of the mess of this thing. Because it's not a simple mechanical system we're playing with here. It's a complex ecosystem where businesses are evolving, the customers are evolving, everything's changing all the time. It's not like we can hold it still, figure it out once and for all, and then make the perfect solution and we're done. That's it, off to retire and have a lovely time for the rest of eternity.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it and it felt like one of those like scientific experiments, like, well, if we had no gravity and if we were in a vacuum, then this thing would happen. And that's where I feel like product strategy and UX strategy are going to totally overlap, because to me, the real overlap is business goals and customer or user goals. If those completely overlapped, then hypothetically, product strategy and UX strategy would look identical, if not really close, and it would just be a matter of road mapping our activities. But because in many businesses, the business strategies and KPIs and initiatives don't really always match what customers want, that's where some of that conflict comes in. So I think it comes in even above the product team. But yeah, Kayleen, in that, what do I say?
You keep saying one of my trigger words, roadmap. I want the fire to come.
All right, hold on. Roadmap. What should I say instead?
I don't know if there's a better thing. Although I like the metaphor, it's more like a C chart. It's more like a C chart because there's not a defined path that we're going to take. Where we're going to go depends on the currents, the winds. There are hidden sandbanks underneath. Things are changing. There are rocks we can crash on. All sorts of stuff going on there.
I usually say project plan. Or I guess that's more at the project level.
Yeah, at the project level, that makes sense. I think you've got, this is then getting into Kerwin and the idea that you've got complicated and ordered things, and you can have a project and you can have a start and a finish and make a plan. In a complex world, a project doesn't really work. You have to probe, sense, respond. You have to adapt and evolve the thing because you can't know enough. No amount of analysis can tell you the answer up front. You're going to have to do something and see how the world responds. And then you respond to that and it becomes this endless dance, which is where it's fun. But it makes projects a nightmare because by the time you're 20% into the project, everything's changed and it's a nightmare.
Oh, agility. That's where we have to be Agile.
Yes, there are some places where you have to be agile.
Yes.
There are some places where agility is a terrible idea.
Agree.
The problem is one size fits all approaches, isn't it?
For sure, for sure. Well, we are 10 minutes late, but thank you so much for staying late. Thanks for coming today. It was fantastic. You had so many great answers, technically all of them. And just for final words, just remind everybody where they can find you, connect with you, get coaching from you. Where can they stalk you?
Well, I should say thank you very much, Debbie, for inviting me on. It's been
And
really
thanks to
fun.
Ralisa for suggesting you be dragged onto the show.
Yes, thanks from me as well. And yeah, I enjoyed particularly the disagreements and the debates. That's where it's fun, when we're like friction rubbing up. But where people can find me again, tomkerwin.com. You can find my Substack newsletter, stuff like that. I'm on Twitter, Tom_D_Kerwin. Nice and memorable. And then if you're interested in this sneaking in iteration and loopishness when people are wanting a plan and wanting to know, when will it be finished? When will my idea be done? Then you want to go to pivot-triggers.com and take a look at that.
I've already opened a browser, and I'm going to make sure I look at it over the coming days, and I will bug you if I have any questions. So that is it for the show. Again, tomorrow's show is unfortunately going to have to be rescheduled, so I think we'll see everybody here Friday for Reaction Stream, and then, of course, all of the usual shows next week. You can always hit deltacx.com/links to see the calendar of events and all the other links. And again, if you had fun today, please tell 3 people you know about this channel, and make sure they check it out, because why not? Because it's free and we're having fun. So Tom, thanks again. I hope we can have you on in another future adventure. And for now, I'm going to say thanks, and everybody be safe, wear 17 masks, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are